Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone to the Year of You month by month. As you may or may not have seen, as part of like the marketing that went out for this, I talk to a lot of people and they feel really overwhelmed by like the daunting task of planning an entire year when you're really at the very beginning of it. So I was inspired by some of those conversations to host a monthly get together of people who are wanting to work on stuff in life and wanting to do different things, but maybe wanting to take it like bit by bit and piece by piece. There's like an old saying that's like you can't eat an elephant all at once, or you have to eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's kind of like the same idea as that. So thank you all for joining. I'm so glad you're here. And what we're going to do tonight is we'll talk a little bit about what you want to focus on. And I have a tool to help you think through what might be your focus for the month if you don't have it yet. Then we'll go through an exercise where you can better define that goal more specifically. And then we'll open it up for questions or coaching if we have time after that. And then we'll talk a little bit about next month. So hopefully this is useful and you decide to come back next month, but I'm glad you're here today. So let's jump in. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie and I am a coach. I specifically specialize in helping people either recover from or just prevent burnout. I spent most of my 17-year career in advertising in some stage of burnout. Luckily, in the last 5 years, I have not experienced that because I kind of figured out how to continue to get the work that I wanted to get done, continue to work to the level that I wanted to work at without hustling and working myself to the bone. So that is why that's one of my major focuses for coaching and why I love to do things like this to help other people find those answers for themselves. So outside of coaching, I have a 19-month-old little girl named Frankie, a golden doodle named Kermit, and a husband named Colin. And those three beings keep me very busy, and life is quite full because of them. In normal times, I love to travel, but that's not really happening right now. So I'm spending a lot of time building my business, Pretty Cool Coaching, and helping people kind of figure out what they want more of in life, what they want less of, and how I can make that a little bit easier for them. Okay, so jumping in. So it's a new year. And as I was mentioning before, not sure about all of you, but this first week was a bit of a doozy for me. Lots going on at work, lots going on in personal life, lots going on out in the world. And so I wanted to kick off this session by taking a little bit of inspiration from T Swift and my first improv teacher at Second City. So we're going to do a little exercise that I call the shake off. And so if everyone wants to stand up, you don't have to go on video for this if you don't want to, but if you are on video and want to stay, that's okay too. So go ahead and stand up for this. And some of you have actually done this with me before. So hopefully it brings back good memories. But what we're going to do is we're just going to like shake off the energy from this week or last year or today, whatever you want. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to start with the count of 8 and do our right hand, right foot, left foot, and then like our bottoms. Okay. And then we're going to go down from 8 all the way down to 1. So I'll walk you through this. But if you want to just follow along for the first part of it, I'll go ahead. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, midway through this, I'm realizing it's a little weird to be doing this alone in my room. Also, you can't see my feet, but when I do the like 2 other ones that you can't see, I'm doing my feet. Okay, let's do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay. All right. So you can sit back down now. And I know that's like a little silly, but hopefully it brought a little bit of energy into your world and also allowed you to shake off anything that was not working for you. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about like, what is this year of you? And my vision for this is just to like make setting goals and working towards something throughout the year a little less overwhelming and easier to do. So my plan is to get together once a month and tackle one goal at a time. You can use every month to work on the same goal, or you can choose something different each time. But the point is we want to chunk it out and make it as small and digestible as possible so that it actually happens and you end up building on it month over month. And then by the end of the year, or even by the end of 6 months, you have 6 months worth of momentum or 12 months worth of momentum that you can look back on and say like, wow, I really created something pretty cool. Okay. So it's also a time, you know, all of us, as I look at who's on this call, we're all extremely busy. We're going in a million different directions. We've got a lot of different things going on in our lives. And so it's a time once a month for you to really focus on yourself. Because a lot of times when life gets busy or overwhelming, our own care or our own focus is the first thing to go. So at the very least, this is 1 hour every month that is dedicated to you, where you can think about like not what's on the grocery list or what assignment is due at work or what your spouse or partner or child needs, but what do you need? What do you want? And how can you carve out some time for that? I talked about the 1 month, one goal at a time. So breaking it down into really easy chunks. And then I'm also hoping that this creates a sense of community, connection, and support with this group here, whoever shows up for the calls every month. And then also I'm going to start a Facebook group where those who want to, it's certainly not required, but those who want to can come on to that and share what they're working on, or maybe what their successes are, or what their struggles are and where they need some support. It's just a place to go in between these sessions where you can find some people working on similar things. And then finally, underlying all of this are coaching tools and exercises, and even some live coaching that I can do on the calls where you can learn some things that that I've learned along the way. I mean, one of my passions is sharing some of the knowledge that I've gotten through coaching and through personal development. And so this is a way that I can kind of spread the love in that sense. So you might want to know already what you want to work on for January, but just in case you don't, or even just to make sure that you're focusing on the thing that makes the most sense right now, we're going to go through an exercise that is called the Wheel of Life. Some of you might be familiar with this already, and you might have done it in another one of my workshops or another setting altogether. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 8 different dimensions that are on this Wheel of Life. A lot of times we think about our lives kind of falling into like 2 different buckets. It's either work or it's life. You know, people talk about work-life balance and as if it's like a binary choice of where we need to focus and what we need to be doing. But it's actually way more than that. And I know everyone knows that, but sometimes it's hard to come up with the different aspects that make up the other stuff in life. So this wheel offers that perspective that life is more than just work and home. So we're going to get a sense of where we're at today, and kind of like where there might be an opportunity for you to focus for the next month. So what I want you to do is take a look at each one of these, and I'll also send out the PDF for this if you want to actually do it on paper after the session today. But for right now, all you need to do is kind of jot down the different categories and then where you are on a scale of 1 to 10. And what I want you to think of is, with 10 being high and 1 being low, how satisfied are you in each area of your life, in each one of these categories? So for example, family and parenting, if I'm feeling pretty good, and like I'm really showing up for my family and really showing up as a parent, like I might give myself a 7 or an 8. It's all relative to your own rating system, and no one's going to look at what you rate yourself. This is purely for your own edification and record keeping. But let's take a couple of minutes to go through this and just jot down in a notebook, where you're at on each one of these, and then we'll come back and talk about what we're going to do with that. So as you do that, I'll put on a little bit of music in the background, and then we'll come back in a minute or so and do the next step. Okay, it looks like most people are wrapping this up. So before we move on to the next part of this, I just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about how I use this in my own life. So, and also with my clients, I use it as a way of checking in. There's like the more qualitative way of saying, well, how do I feel today about how my life is going? And it's usually something like good or bad, and that it kind of stops there. But the way that I use it personally, and also with the people that I work with, is that we use it every month or every couple of months, some sort of cadence that seems right, as a way of just checking in and saying, okay, last month I was here. Where am I this month? Did it go up? Did it go down? And then maybe looking into why, like what might have caused an increase or a decrease, and am I okay with that? Or even like we'll use it tonight with goal setting. Like, okay, here's where I am right now. This is a snapshot in time of where I'm at on Sunday, January 9th. But, you could also say, this is just where I am right now. Here's where I want to be, and how big of a leap I want to make in one direction or another. And that sort of indicates then how big of a risk you need to set, or how big of a goal you need to set for yourself this month. So yeah, it's a really great tool to kind of check in on every once in a while, and use to see where you're at. Now, I'll show you an example of a wheel I did for myself. And when you have a copy of this to use at home, like the PDF copy, it can be really insightful to, it's called the Wheel of Life, and it can be really insightful to actually connect the dots, like those old, like connect the dot things that we used to have as kids. I loved those where it revealed the picture. Well, in this case, it reveals a visual metaphor of the wheel of your life and how bumpy or smooth that ride is that you're having on a day-to-day basis. In my case, I would say my ride through life is relatively smooth, couple of bumps here and there that could be a little bit more smoothed out, maybe a little bit more fun and enjoyment, a little bit more social relationships, and that would have me riding a little bit smoother. But it's really indicative of, what your life kind of feels like right now, but in a very like kind of black and white visual way. So it can be really helpful at that. So as each of you look at your wheel tonight, what area pops out as a place you want to focus this month? And of course, you can choose multiple places, but for the sake of tonight's exercise, I would encourage you to just choose one. Again, it's like one month, one goal. But what place is sort of what segment of this is sort of calling your name for where you might want to spend some time working to have it be a little bit more of an ideal version of what you hope that part of your life to be. And then as you think about that, and by the way, I just want to say that you don't necessarily have to go to like the lowest score. You could just go to the one that feels best right now. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I gotta like up the lowest score that I have on there. You could, using my example, I could take my personal development from a 7 to an 8. It doesn't really matter. What matters more is which one feels like the right place to focus at this point in time. So take a look at each of your wheels and decide where you want to focus this month. And then think about, what about that part of your life? What would more satisfaction look like in that part of your life? So one example for me, like the place I'm going to focus tonight is fun and enjoyment. Life, 2 years into the pandemic doesn't feel super fun and frivolous and fancy free. It feels pretty, especially in the middle of the winter. I'm much more of a summer girl. So it just feels a little bit like, okay, I wake up, I go to work, I take care of my family, and then I kind of like watch some TV and go to bed. I'm not like, walking around the neighborhood. I'm cold and I want to sit under a blanket. So that being said though, when I saw this on here and I was like, yeah, wow, a 4. Okay. Well, there's like fun things I can do indoors. Like I would like to have a little bit more fun this month. Like it doesn't need to all be, just working hard and putting my head down. I can have a little bit more joy in my life and a little bit more enjoyment. So that's kind of how to think about this. And maybe just jot down a couple of notes about what section you're thinking about focusing on, and then what you want to do in order to increase the level of satisfaction in that area. Just some initial thoughts. We're going to dive deeper into what it could look like for each one of those in just a second, but just get an initial thought down on paper. And the next thing I want to talk about is how our language and the energy around our language impacts the way that we go about our goals. So a couple examples here. A lot of times I talk to people and they say like, well, I have to lose weight, or, I need to save more money, or I really need a new job, or something like that. There's a lot of goal setting that happens on the left-hand side of this chart in the have tos and the need tos. And what that does is it might just seem like semantics, but it's really not, because there's a lot of energy, a lot of heavy energy that comes from those two statements. The have tos are really coming from a place of like forcing whatever it is you're saying you want to do. And the need tos are coming from like almost like it's like a duty, and you're just like fulfilling this requirement or this chore or this task that, well, it needs to be done. Like it's not something that's really coming from a place of desire or a place of want. It's coming from a place of, I just it needs to get done. On the flip side of that, the want to and the choose to side, it comes with a lighter energy, a more creative and curious and productive energy. So the want to is really rooted in the sense of desire. Like, wow, yeah, I want to become healthier, or I want to get a better handle on my finances, or I want to have more fun in my case. And even choose to takes it one step further, where you're even looking at like, it's coming from a sense of being more empowered to act on that goal or that desire. Like, I'm choosing to make time for this thing that's important to me. I'm choosing to prioritize this part of my life that I want to focus a little bit more on. So you can see the difference in the bottom examples of just my example of having more fun. So I have to have more fun sounds a little bit ridiculous. Like, it's like, what? You have to have more fun? Like, that inherently sounds not fun at all. And then, I need to have more fun. That also just sounds a little bit, absurd. Like, I need more fun. There's like a little bit of like a frantic energy about it that just has like, there's a weird juxtaposition with just the word fun that seems a little bit more playful and lighthearted. But then when you start to get into the right-hand side of the chart and it's, I want to have more fun. Okay. That's like, that starts to get to a place of like, oh, I wonder what's possible. And, what might having more fun look like in that scenario. And I'm choosing to have more fun, or I'm choosing to make time for more fun. That feels like, okay, I've already made the choice that I'm going to have more fun, and then I'm going to make the time for it. So there's just a different energy depending on how you're framing up the actual goal itself. And I'll tell you a story about one of my clients. She was looking to she was totally burnt out and looking for just like an hour a week for herself. She said, okay, I think I can figure out how to find 1 hour a week for myself. And so we were talking about, okay, what do you want to do with that hour? And she said, well, I want it to be like truly me time. And I said, okay, great. That sounds awesome. Like, what does that look like? What would you do if you just had 1 hour to yourself every week? And she said, well, I should lift some weights and, like exercise during that time. And I just like something about the language of saying I should lift weights and exercise. I said, okay, is that what you really want to do? Or is that what you think you should be doing or what you need to be doing? And she was like, well, no, I don't want to do that. But if I only have an hour, that's how I'm going to spend it. And some people would say, no, that hour I definitely want to work out for that hour because it's something that drives them and fulfills them in their goals and in their, in how they enjoy their free time. But for her, she had talked about like wanting to explore photography and wanting to just sit back with like a book or a magazine and just like sit in silence. She has 3 kids, so she's very busy. And so that one reframe of like, well, I should be exercising or I should be lifting weights to, wait, what do I want to do? Oh, I didn't even think of it that way. I want to read a magazine. I want to pull out my camera and walk around the neighborhood for an hour. So it was just a really simple thing that made a big impact for her. And therefore that hour that she spent ended up being much more restorative for her than it would have if she was like shooting her way to lifting weights or working out. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, cool. Great. So as you think about framing up your own goals, maybe try and steer clear of the left-hand side of of the chart and go more towards the right. And if anyone has any questions about how to do that, or if you're getting stuck there, come off mute and just shout it out, and I'm happy to help you through that. Okay, so now we're going to go through an exercise that takes the right goals that you just got to and right sizes them. So many of you have likely heard and maybe even done SMART goals. Like, I know I've been doing them at work for years and years and years. And so this process that I'm going to take you through uses SMART goals as a foundation, but it builds on right sizing the goal before you even get into the specifics of the SMART goals. And it's called AIM SMART. So we're going to go through the AIM part first. So AIM stands for three things. So the first one is acceptable. And what I want you to do with each one of these is we're going to go through your goal. So if you want to put your goal at the top of your page, and then we're actually going to work through the AIM part and the SMART part so that by the end of the session tonight, you'll have an AIM smarted goal for January. So taking your high level goal, what I want you to first think about is within that goal, what is the absolute minimum you could do in the month of January and still feel like you're working towards that goal? And I'll share an example in a second, but if anyone's willing to share their own example so we could go through it as a group, that would be lovely. Otherwise, we could just go with mine.
I have an example.
Great, go for it, Allie.
So I recently moved to a new city and I have really healthy friendships in my life, but I don't have a network of people here. So my minimum goal for January would be to reach out to like at least 3 people to get coffee with in this city.
Okay. So reach out to 3 people for coffee. And what's your what's like your overarching goal?
This is in the relationship bucket, and my goal that I put underneath it is to build a network of people in DC.
Okay. Build network. Okay. Build network in DC. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, your minimum goal is reaching out to 3 people for coffee. That's great. Okay. So now what we're going to do is look at the ideal. Like if you didn't have any other responsibilities, if you had all the time in the world and everything worked as it should, what is like the maximum you could do around that goal?
Is this for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, everyone should write their own goal. And then Allie, if you're willing to share again, that would be wonderful.
I think the maximum I could do would be to invite people over for a dinner party at my place.
Okay.
That is a lot more effort than just going to coffee.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So invite people over for dinner party, and you'd have to like find those people, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have the like, you know, in the periphery people that I could reach out to. It's just, we haven't connected in a while.
Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, that involves a lot more. So I'll give everyone like a couple seconds to kind of write down what their ideal version of their own goal is. And then the last part of this is to find the middle. That's the M in AIM. So if you were to look at, for Allie's goal, you know, reach out to 3 people for coffee and invite people over for dinner. Allie, what could be a realistic goal in the middle of those 2 things that would work for you for the month of January?
Something more in the middle feels like going to dinner with people. I don't know, that sounds like a little bit more effort, but less than hosting. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So going out for dinner with a group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. That's a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'm just trying to make friends out here, you guys.
And that is not easy. Like making friends as an adult it really takes effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's perfect. So again, it was the acceptable minimum was reach out to 3 people for coffee. The ideal maximum was invite people over for a dinner party that you throw at your own place. And then the middle that feels like the realistic middle was going out for dinner with a group of people. And what's interesting in all of those is they all ultimately ladder up to that initial goal of building your network in DC and connecting with people and building that community. So really any one of those that you did would serve that ultimate purpose. But the beauty of this tool is that it just allows you to explore the spectrum of how that overarching goal could come to life in 3 different ways, and to find the one that feels, again, not like, oh shoot, I just committed to a goal for January and I'm gonna like, it's gonna add stress to my life. No one needs more stress. We need less. But if you want to still work on things in your life without adding a ton of stress, this is like a wonderful tool to use where you can kind of find the right level of the goal for you. So I'll give you an example of mine about having more fun. So I did this based on time. So I said, okay, if I want to have more fun, that's my overarching goal. The acceptable minimum is like plan 1 fun activity for the month of January. Okay. So that would be like the absolute bare minimum I could do to feel like, yep, I still met that goal. I'm still moving forward in this way. The ideal maximum would be to plan 1 fun activity every single day. Okay. So that like, these are like, I like to think of these as like the black and white solutions of like, I'm either doing like the absolute bare minimum or I'm doing everything. And for people that think in black and white terms, like I've done for many, many years, it's hard, it puts a lot of pressure on yourself. So then the acceptable middle that I found was just plan 1 fun activity each week. That felt like something that, I have 7 days to choose from. I have after work, I have weekends, maybe mornings if I made that happen. But there's lots of time in there to figure out what it is, and it didn't feel too overwhelming. It felt like there would be a regular cadence, but without like taking on too much. So that was my example of aiming smart, this goal of having more fun.
Hey, Steph.
Yeah.
Can we help people on the call accomplish their goals?
Yeah.
So I know that's a strange question, but so Allie brought up the idea of making more friends in DC. I have a couple of friends that I went to high school with that I know are in DC that maybe I could hook her up with.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. Allie, if you're open to that, you guys could trade contact info and yeah, do a little meet and greet with Kirsten's friends.
I'm about to knock these goals out of the park. Yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Happy to help.
Thanks, Kurt. And also, Allie, thank you for sharing your example. That was great. Does anyone else want to share their example or even get some help with their example if you're getting stuck?
I actually have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone actually mentioned in the chat earlier if you could clarify the personal development area of the circle.
Oh,
So I was wondering if you had a second to go back to that. And then my second question was about when you were kind of breaking down, like the spectrum of like choosing versus needing and stuff. I was wondering, is it really bad to have a goal based on what you need? Because, I can think of, so I was kind of struggling between like choosing my focus area of the month being like in the fun area or the health area, where the fun area is kind of what I choose, but the health area is kind of what I need based on like, health concerns and those type of things. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out which area makes the most sense for me kind of thing,
Got it. Okay. So Tatiana, that's a wonderful question. And I'm really glad you brought that up because I'm sure other people have that exact same question. And also thank you for calling out the questions in the chat. So let me address the second question first with the language that you're using. So absolutely, it makes sense that if you were choosing what you wanted to work on, you would pick the fun and enjoyment. But in terms of like some of the health issues that you're facing, the health one feels more like I have to work on this. It's an imminent need, and I have to do this. The point of showing the impact of language is actually just saying you can still work on the health the health goal, but come from a place of want or choose. And let me give you an example of that. So based on the situation that you're in, where you're saying like, you know, I want to like, or I have a health goal that that I'm considering. Is there a part of that that need state that you're in where, because of the longer term implications of the health situation, there is a part of you that wants to work on that, to, you know, stay healthy for longer, or to you know, work to like, is there a part of you that actually wants to do that because it has, you know, benefits down the road?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, my health goal in particular is mostly because like it's not like a super crazy health goal. I like currently have COVID, so like trying to heal right now feels like the goal that I should probably try to focus on. And if there are other things like in this time that make the most sense for me to kind of heal faster, whether that's like, you know, getting daily activity, you know, you know, those type of things, it's been really hard to push myself to want those things, even in spite of the long-term gratifications that can come out of that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I'm wondering if, and thank you for clarifying, you know, what it is specifically you're looking at here. I'm wondering if you said, you know, something like, I want to recover from COVID as quickly as possible, or I
Mm,
want to focus on recovering from COVID this month,
okay.
or like I'm choosing to prioritize my COVID recovery this month.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's still the same goal, but you're coming at it energetically with a very different approach. It's an approach of like, you know, it's just a more, I guess, positive approach of like, okay, yeah, I want to do what I can, whether it's getting regular exercise or nourishing my body in a way that makes the most sense, or getting enough rest. Like all of that stuff is ways that you can probably recover from COVID as quickly as possible. And that can come from a place of wanting to care for your body and to care for your health in an intentional
Mm,
way.
okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, for sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. In focusing on framing in particular, to help us to stray away from the desire to make your goals so focused on what you have and need to, and versus thinking about it in a way that brings you more, I guess, motivates you to want to do the thing and to choose that thing.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So you could like, just like I've put having more fun through this lens, you could put recovering from COVID through the
Mm,
same lens. Like, I have to recover from COVID this month. I need to recover from COVID this month. Those have like a feeling, like there's almost like a fear that comes along with those. And like a, you know, like a sense of being begrudgingly doing it. Like you don't want, like it's like, I don't want to do it. I just have to. But then when you start to put it through the lens of like, I want to recover from COVID this month, or I choose to prioritize my recovery from COVID this month, that starts to get to a place of, yeah, motivation. I think that's the perfect word that you used to describe the difference between the two.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for asking that. I think that's a really, really important question. And I'm glad you brought that up. And then let me go back to the personal development side of the chart. So part of the reason that this chart is is without definition is because everyone probably has a slightly different definition of what each of these mean. Like my spiritual awareness is probably different than any of your spiritual awarenesses, or my definition of fun and enjoyment is probably very different than any of your definitions of fun and enjoyment. So the same sort of goes for personal development. I personally see personal development as like, am I constantly learning and growing and challenging myself? That's how I define personal development. But I'm sure there are many other definitions of it that exist even just in this small group. So Martin, I just want to check in with you and see if that makes sense of like what personal development looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just, I guess it was just the most meta of the categories within the wheel. But then as I started thinking about it, it was kind of, yeah, it's fun. The fact that I asked the question is telling enough.
No, this is good. I love questions because I'm sure there's at least one other person in this group that has the exact same question. So I so appreciate people that raise their hand and speak up. Okay, cool. So getting back to where we were, any other questions about the aim part of the equation? Oh, I don't think it, you know what? I don't think I ever went through. Oh no, I did. Okay. So any other questions about the aim part of the equation? Okay, so now I'm just going to take you through the SMART part. And this might be the part that most of you are familiar with, but just in case you're not, we'll go through this and then that way you can walk out of here with a really specific example, or not example, but a really specific goal to go after this month. So SMART ultimately stands for specific, like what exactly are you going to do? And in many cases, I'm sure a lot of you just did this in the last, in the previous exercise. Like Allie is going to go out for dinner. Maybe to be more specific, it's something like she can take that even further to say, I'm going to go to dinner with these 3 people by this particular date or something like that. That gets real specific and says exactly what she's going to do. So you want to write down like, what is the specific thing you're going to do for your goal? The second one is measurable. So a lot of times when we set goals, they're pretty lofty and pretty vague. Like I want to feel better, or I want to be healthier, or I want to have more money or something like that. And I think the fact that we went through the AIM process probably rectified any vagueness that anyone on this call had in their goals. But if not, you can ask yourself the simple question of, how will you know if you've achieved it? Is there a specific like thing that'll happen, or marker that you've gotten this done? Like in Allie's case, did she go to dinner with her friends? Yes or no? That means she's achieved it or not. The A stands for achievable. So this is really just like pausing and reflecting on the goal that you've set and saying, is this action step possible to achieve? Given everything that's going on right now in your life and the resources and time and limitations that might exist, is this action step like possible right now? And that's usually a yes or no. And I'll show you the examples from my own goal over here. So to be more specific, it was plan a fun activity once a week, either on a Saturday or a Sunday. So I took that one step further and said, you know what, I'm not going to try and do it during the week. That's probably too much. I'm going to try and do it on a Saturday or Sunday. Measurable, it's absolutely measurable because we either do the fun activity or we don't. So I can definitely know if we've achieved it or not. The next step is achievable. Yeah, doing one fun thing a week is definitely achievable right now. Now the R stands for realistic. And this is really looking at, it's similar to achievable, but it's really looking at like, how realistic is it at this time? Like, is this, is this going to happen? And right now, like using my example, my weekends are pretty free right now. So I think it's realistic that I'm going to try and do these fun activities on Saturdays or Sundays. And then T is about the time oriented aspect of it. So when will you complete the first step of this? And for me, I've committed to my first fun day will be next weekend. And so next Saturday or Sunday will be the first time that I say, okay, I'm going to do this goal. And for Allie's example, you know, as she goes through this, she could say, is it achievable? You know, yes or no, like how possible is this? It's possible to go out to dinner right now with friends. It might need a little bit more planning than it normally does because of COVID or schedules, but it's possible. Realistic is, you know, kind of looking at like how realistic with her schedule, with their schedules, how likely is this to happen versus something comes up. And then finally, time orientation. So she'd need to put some sort of time definition on that. So when does she want to do this by? Okay, any questions on the SMART part of AIM SMART?
Hey, Steph, it's AJ. I have a quick question slash, I guess it's a comment. So to your point about achievable and realistic being similar, you know, related.
Yeah.
I've sometimes asked when I'm doing my own SMART goals, the realistic part to be, instead of it being like a yes or no question that, or, you know, on a scale, but like what would need to happen to make sure this is realistic? So in your example about, you know, I'd need to, schedules would have to align, or I would need to have my weekends free or something so that it feels like sometimes our goal, like at least for me, sometimes my goals are dependent on other people or other resources. And so I sometimes will use that realistic bucket as a way to take into account some of those resources.
I love that. I think that's a really smart way of using realistic, like how, or like what needs to happen to make this realistic. Yeah, that's a really smart idea. Thank you for sharing that. Love that. Okay, cool. All right. So, now, we're a little bit short on time, so I just want to be sensitive to that. But if anyone wants to share their one thing that they're going to do for this month, I'd love to hear it. I'm sure others would as well.
I'll share.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Can I
sorry,
just
go
ask
ahead.
one quick question?
Yeah, go for it, Tatiana.
So I was wondering, Kelly, so Stephanie, okay, way back in the days, I used to have a coach who was like helping me with like goals and those type of things, but we were contracted to work together, let's say for like 6 months or something. During that time, I had like a goal for the 6 months. So every month we would check in on that like one goal. And so my question here is more like, how can we approach this on a month by month basis, but also still think about like things that we would want more long term?
Yeah. So that's a great question. You could set a vision long term about, you know, what you want to achieve in the next 3 months, 6 months, year even, and kind of set that vision. And then every month you could do one goal to work towards that thing.
Okay.
You know, so like you could absolutely use each one of these months to build upon whatever it is you're working towards. If that works for you, like if you have a longer term vision that you are certain about and feel really good about, yeah, absolutely. Like use each one of these months as 12 different steps to get towards that long-term vision.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So with the remaining time, and someone, I think that's Kirsten probably, is going to have a 1 weeknight fun activity with my husband. Love that.
Oh, I did not put that, but I also will do that because that was actually, I was going to share, that's definitely part of my goal is, as you know, Steph, I've been struggling a lot with finding time to just go to date nights and do things like that. So that is, for me, it's once a month is the goal.
Yeah. Okay.
Once a month to like have a planned date night with childcare and no worries, and be able to spend at least like 3 hours out without thinking about children at home.
Love that.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry that I misattributed that to you. And apologies to the person that actually wrote that.
It was me and my husband.
Oh, sorry, Martin.
That's okay. Sorry for the graffiti.
No, this is great. I love when people use the annotation. That's awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Oops, hold on one second. Let me take that off of there. There we go. Okay. So to wrap up, I just had 2 quick questions for you to all kind of reflect on. One of them is, what could get in the way of this goal? So whether you're, prioritizing your health, or having a date night with your husband, or trying to have a little bit more fun, what could get in the way of that? And just kind of thinking about the different things that might get in the way, because life comes up, life happens. So something's bound to try and get in the way of that. And the best laid plans, how that saying goes. And then the second part of that question is, who do you need to be to make it happen? So they're like really starting to think about, in order to make this goal happen this month, like, who do you need to be? Maybe for me and my goal of having more fun, I need to be someone who really sees the value in having fun and joy on a regular basis. And that it's not just something that I should do, but it's something that I genuinely see the value in. So that if I come up to the Saturday or Sunday that I've committed to having more fun, and I say, oh, I'm just too busy, like, we've got too much stuff going on, or the weather sucks, or whatever the case is, it's like, I need to be the person who sees the value of spending a little bit of time to have fun. I see the value of play. I see the value of joy. So that's the person I need to be. Maybe you have a goal around, getting up in the morning to work out. And maybe you're one of those people that, tends to kind of like to sleep in the morning. Well, when that alarm clock goes off, who do you need to be in that moment to make that happen? Maybe you need to be the person who, the person who never misses a workout, no matter what. And even if it's at an inconvenient time, you still do it. So this is just helping to solve for some of the barriers and bumps that get in the way of going after the goals that you've set and that you want to achieve this month. So unfortunately, we are out of time, and I just want to be respectful of everyone who joined tonight. So we won't necessarily share these around, but I would suggest that maybe you take a couple of minutes after we hang up just to jot down like some of the things that could get in the way, and then the persona you need to really embody in order to break through those things that could prevent you from getting to what you really want to. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining. A little bit about what's next. So February's meetup will be on 2/6. So this was the second Sunday of the month because the first one was the day right after New Year's. But next month we'll start with the first Sunday of the month at 7 p.m. Next month, I'll be talking about how to DIY your own personal retreat day. That's a practice that I got into this year. It's a very restorative way of spending a day on PTO. And it's a very easy process to go through. So join next time to learn how to DIY your own personal retreat day. I'll send out invites to this group for the Facebook group. And if you would like to join, please do. Don't feel compelled to do so, though, if you're not comfortable with that. And then finally, I'll also send out the link to download the Year of You planning document. It just has some templates and stuff to use as you kind of set your goals and everything. So, oh, yay, Tatiana already planned her personal retreat day. That's awesome. Love it. Okay. So anyway, thank you all. I will stay on for a couple extra minutes in case anyone has any questions, but thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Stephanie, quick question. So is the plan or the cadence intending to be the first Sunday of every month?
That's right. Yep. We'll meet like 7 p.m. So same time, first Sunday of the month, just sort of kick off whatever month it is in a way that, like, really feels empowering and inspiring.
Okay, perfect. I'll mark my calendar. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I'm super grateful to be doing this.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate all the hard work that goes into this.
Yeah, absolutely, Naomi. Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Of course. Looking forward to the next sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. There is I'll also send out the link to get the calendar invite on your calendar with the dial-in information and everything, so that it's a little bit easier than having to remember every month. But yeah, I'd love to see you again.
Sounds great. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Cooks, you're so great.
Thanks, Kerr.
Is it just me
Hold
and you
on.
now?
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna stop recording 1 second.
Okay. Here, I can go back on camera.
1 sec. Let me finish.